Hello and welcome to YNWA Transfer News, your ultimate source for all Liverpool FC transfer news. Our first news is this. Richard Hughes gives rare insight into Liverpool's transfer business. Liverpool's sporting director Richard Hughes has had a rare public outing discussing the club's transfer business, including paying fair market value for their targets. There was pressure mounting on Hughes late into the 2024-25 season, with only one signing the previous summer, Federico Chiesa, and 3 senior players still without new contracts. Ultimately, Virgil van Dijk and Mohamed Salah's contracts were extended. The club banked $8.4 million for free agent Trent Alexander-Arnold, and 10 new signings were confirmed. It turned into a statement summer off the back of winning the Premier League title, with Alexander Isak and Florian Wirtz among those to turn their back on all others in favor of joining Liverpool. Hughes, along with Michael Edwards, have set the squad up for long-term success, and Liverpool's sporting director spoke publicly on the club's strategy at the IMGX Redbird Summit on Thursday. As best you can, you have to detach yourself from what the transfer fee is likely to be, Hughes said, via The Athletic. First and foremost, the identification of the right player for the right system for the right head coach has a fair amount of importance. And I think this is not something that's necessarily new for the football club and its ownership. If you look at what was paid for Alisson Becker, 66.18 in 2018, and Virgil van Dijk, 75 millimeters in 2018 in history, and you equate that to what that would be in 2025 money, you're not far away from where you are with some of the fees that have been spent this summer. We pay what we believe to be fair market value for a player based on age and based on necessity of that individual to fit into the squad. In the fullness of time, we hope that, instead of talking now about what a huge fee it is, it has been value for money for the football club whenever we're making that assessment in the future. And because of the ages of the players that we've bought, we're confident that will end up being the case. 7 of the key signings over the summer have an average age of 22.4 years. It sets the team up for years to come, rather than simply being viewed as an investment to flip down the line. That would be very much the hope, and in buying a player young, you give yourself the ability for that to be the case, Hughes said on signing younger players. We also want to try and win now, and that's important as well, so I'm not describing them as works in progress or anything like that. These are players who have already done a lot in their individual careers. We talk about Florian and Alex, but Milos, Jeremy and Hugo are players that have achieved a certain level in the game already. It is rare that we hear from Hughes, with Slot the one left to discuss transfer business publicly despite his defined role as a head coach, which is not always fair on the Liverpool boss. Alexis Allister says Alexander Isak's move to Liverpool was actually good for Newcastle as, well, Liverpool supporters are excited for what is to come after watching Alexander Isak make his debut for the club on Wednesday, having effectively gone on strike from Newcastle United over the summer. Isak made his first appearance since the final day of the 2024-25 season. The Swede looked surprisingly sharp, and underlined just what a brilliant addition he will be to the Liverpool squad. But while Liverpool fans have been looking ahead with excitement, Newcastle supporters are feeling a very different way towards Isak. Rewind to June, and the 25-year-old was a hero on Tyneside, but after the manner in which he forced through a move to Anfield, Isak has become a pariah at St. James's Park. According to Liverpool midfielder Alexis Allister, however, Newcastle should still be happy with how things ended with their former striker. Newcastle told to be happy over Alexander Isak's fee. For a long while this summer, it had looked as though Isak's move to Liverpool was simply not going to happen. The story played out as publicly as any transfer ever has, with all corners of the football world weighing in to give their opinion, many negatively assessing Isak's actions, and according to Allister, the Liverpool squad were also paying attention to the saga, but eventually got bored as they waited for their new teammate to arrive. At the beginning, it was a big thing, maybe, but after we became a bit tired of it because it was too long, smiled the Argentine during an interview with TNT Sports. But we all know the player he is, Allister added. I think he's going to be really, really important, and we are so happy to have him here. Maybe the other club, Newcastle, are not happy, but that's the way football works. In the end, Liverpool paid quite a lot of money, so I think it's good for both clubs. It's good for him because it's what he wanted, and we are so happy to have him because we know the player he is, and we suffered him a couple of times as well. Will Isak be fit to face Everton? As Allister's interview with TNT was being released, Arne Slot was giving an update into whether Isak is likely to feature against Everton in Saturday's Merseyside derby. According to Slot, the Sweden international is still recovering from Wednesday's intense game, but there is no suggestion that he has picked up an injury. Slot's update on Isak was a positive one, with the number 9 seemingly available for Saturday's derby. However, given the intensity of playing 60 minutes in a Champions League game having not featured for 5 months, it seems unlikely that Isak will start against the Blues. With the dust still settling on their tumultuous summer, Newcastle fans are unlikely to come along to Allister's thinking anytime soon. But that won't stop Liverpool supporters and players from being delighted with their new star striker. Arne Slot confirms Liverpool news that David Moyes will no doubt be envious of. Opinion. Liverpool versus Everton. Injury news ahead of the Merseyside derby at Anfield. Arne Slot has confirmed that Liverpool will have a full complement of players to select for the 247th Merseyside derby against Everton. The Reds boss revealed that Curtis Jones will be back in the squad to face the Toffees at Anfield. Jones has missed the past 2 games because of injury. However, the midfielder returned to training earlier this week, and Slot confirmed that Jones will be involved. It means that Liverpool will have a Scouser involved in the game, with Trent Alexander-Arnold leaving for Real Madrid in the summer transfer window. Jones was raised in Toxteth and has come through the club's academy. The only minor concern that Slot has the recovery of Alexander Isak. The £125 million British record signing made his Liverpool debut in the 3-2 win over Atletico Madrid earlier this week. Isak was at the center of a protracted transfer saga before joining the Reds on deadline day. The striker did not train with Newcastle for much of the pre-season period as he pursued a move to Anfield. He started his first game in 5 months against Atletico, while it was only his 3rd appearance in the same time frame. While Slot was pleasantly surprised by Isak's fitness levels during his 58-minute outing, the Sweden international has felt the impact of the game. "I don't think I tell the media a lot the day before the game how we start," said the Liverpool boss. "We had recovery yesterday and we'll see how they all feel. Alex did feel his body maybe than ever before. Let's see how he has recovered today. We're going to think about the lineup more today." Certainly, Everton boss David Moyes would relish being in the same situation as his Liverpool counterpart. The Toffees could well make the short trip across the city without 2 of their starting back 4. Jared Branthwaite, Everton's prized asset, is yet to play this campaign. The center-back has a hamstring problem and is building up his fitness. Meanwhile, left-back Vitaly Mykolenko is doubtful after missing last weekend's 0-0 draw against Aston Villa at Hill Dickinson Stadium. James Garner, a natural midfielder, deputized in the fullback role. "Jimmy is playing as well as any player at the moment," Moyes said. "I think he's probably playing as well as any English midfield player in the country at the moment as well. He's had to play a few games at left-back, and I have to say, he's done a really good job there as well. He's shown his versatility for us, and we know then that if we have to use him, we can do that." Moyes also admitted that there are a couple of knocks in the squad that may also need to be assessed. Arne Slot drops major. Hint over Alexander Isak and Hugo. Ekitike rolls at Liverpool. Arne Slot has once again dropped hints about his plans to utilize both Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike this season, after strengthening Liverpool's attacking lineup this summer. The Reds shattered the British transfer record by signing the Swedish player from Newcastle United on the final day of the transfer window, following an extended summer saga. Earlier in the summer, Liverpool had already secured the signing of Ekitike, beating out competition from the likes of Newcastle to land the Frenchman from Eintracht Frankfurt. The 23-year-old has made a promising start to his career with the Reds, netting 3 goals and providing an assist in his first 6 appearances. In fact, he became the first player to score in each of his first 3 games for the club since Daniel Sturridge achieved the same feat in 2023. However, Ekitike is still acclimatizing to Premier League football and has yet to play a full 90 minutes since joining the club. He was benched for the first time during the midweek victory over Atletico Madrid as Slot gave Isak his Liverpool debut. Following the win over Atletico, Slot confirmed that Isak would definitely not play the full 90 minutes against the Blues, with the Reds still carefully managing Isak after a disrupted preseason, which saw him essentially go on strike at Newcastle. Furthermore, after his team's victory over Burnley last weekend, he conceded that the striker would not be able to play more than 45 minutes against both the La Liga team and Everton. He will be able to play 45 on Wednesday as a minimum, or a little bit more, he said. But if he plays 45 on Wednesday, don't expect him to play 45 or more on Saturday, as his body is not prepared for that. Therefore, Ekitike is anticipated to spearhead the attack against Everton in Saturday's Merseyside derby. Slot will encounter the most challenging of selection headaches when both forwards are completely match fit. Whilst there have been suggestions he could deploy either striker out wide to accommodate them both in his starting X, the Dutchman has acknowledged he predominantly views them both as center forwards. Everything is always possible, so they can play as wingers, but I think for Alex number 9 is by far his best position, he said. Hugo has played in the past, when he was younger, as a winger as well, but then he started to grow more and more and more. Although Cody Gakpo shows that even if you are really tall, you can still be a very good, intelligent winger. So Hugo could be a player who could play off the left side, not in the way Cody or Mo is playing, but he could become a second striker. But in general, I think both of them are more number 9s than any other position. Richard. Hughes uses Allister and Virgil van Dijk to defend record Liverpool spending spree. Richard Hughes has emphasized the significance of disregarding transfer fees when discussing Liverpool's recruitment approach this summer. When it came to forecasting which Premier League clubs would splash the cash, Liverpool wouldn't have featured prominently on many lists. Yet it ultimately invested over 600 millers, 446 meters on fresh talent. The expenditure represented the highest sum ever committed by a Premier League side in one transfer window, surpassing Chelsea's 586 met, 434 forming Happers outlay during the summer of 2023. Alexander Isak arrived for a club record 169 millers, 125 millers, whilst Florian Wirtz commanded 157, 116.35, and Hugo Ekitike cost 107, 79 meter as they too switched to Anfield. Jeremy Frimpong, Milos Kerkez, and Giovanni Leone similarly joined the Premier League champions. As Arne Slot's squad experienced substantial reconstruction, reports the Liverpool Echo. Speaking publicly for the first time since Slot's inaugural Liverpool press conference last summer, Hughes has now revealed why the club pursued their chosen targets, regardless of the substantial costs involved. As best you can, you have to detach yourself from what the transfer fee is likely to be, he told the IMG-X Redbird Summit on Thursday via The Athletic. First and foremost, the identification of the right player for the right system for the right head coach has a fair amount of importance, and I think this is not something that's necessarily new for the football club and its ownership. If you look at what was paid for Alisson Becker and Virgil van Dijk in history, and you equate that to what that would be in 2025 money, you're not far away from where you are with some of the fees that have been spent this summer. We pay what we believe to be fair market value for a player, based on age and based on necessity of that individual to fit into the squad. In the fullness of time, we hope that, instead of talking now about what a huge fee it has been value for money for the football club whenever we're making that assessment in the future. And because of the ages of the players that we've bought, we're confident that will end up being the case. The Reds kicked off the summer with a bold declaration by capturing the highly coveted Wirtz from Bayer Leverkusen in a deal worth a then-British record. Isak subsequently arrived on transfer deadline day following an extended, protracted saga that witnessed the striker effectively down tools at Newcastle United to engineer his departure, Hughes is convinced that Liverpool have acquired two talents capable of remaining at Anfield for numerous seasons ahead. That would be very much the hope, and in buying a player young, you give yourself the ability for that to be the case, he said. We also want to try and win now, and that's important as well. So, I'm not describing them as works in progress or anything like that. These are players who have already done a lot in their individual careers. We talk about Florian and Alex, but Milos, Jeremy, and Hugo are players that have achieved a certain level in the game already. Arne Slot pays tribute to Everton for Liverpool's support after Diogo Jota's death. Arne Slot has paid tribute to Everton for the respect shown to a grieving Liverpool following the death of Diogo Jota, and the Reds boss says, such acts transcend the footballing rivalry in the city as the Premier League champions get set to host their neighbors in the first Merseyside derby of the new season on Saturday lunchtime. Jota passed away in early July, when he and his brother, Andre Silva, were involved in his car crash in northern Spain. The days that followed saw Anfield become the site to mourn the passing of the popular Portugal international and his sibling, as thousands of fans from a wide variety of clubs laid their floral tributes. Everton were one of the first to reach out, arriving at Anfield with a delegation that included Portugal-born strikers Beto and Youssef Chermiti, alongside club legend Ian Snowden, club captain Seamus Coleman, and manager David Moyes also turned out to offer their condolences. Slot thanked the Blues for their gestures during what was a harrowing period for the club in the immediate aftermath of the death of the much-loved Jota, saying in his Friday press conference how much that meant to those at Liverpool when we faced them last season. They had a very good spell, and it wasn't a spell, because they have just kept on playing well and kept going. With that into this season as well also, the Reds boss said. They have made some good signings. One of them is, of course, a player on loan who was worth 100 million in the past, and maybe still, but someone paid 100 million, and he is doing so well for them, Jack Grealish. So a good team, and indeed there is rivalry, but what I also liked, and I want to emphasize at this moment as well, that what they did when Diogo passed away, coming to Anfield and being there, it was their captain, and of course they showed their respect. Sports director to sports director, and all these kinds of things. So it is nice to see in these times that the rivalry is still there, but the respect after such tragedies is also there. So we are looking forward to this game because every Anfield game is special, but this derby is even more special. Slot added, it differed to other derby days. And what I like so much in England is that no matter how much the rivalry is there with Everton or Manchester United, or if we're going to go Newcastle with the whole Alexander Isak story going on, the fans can be together. So when we arrived at Newcastle, I saw 10 Liverpool shirts, and I saw many Newcastle shirts, by the way, and they were standing in between the Newcastle fans I saw, which is impossible in Holland. So that is something really special you have here, and I hope you can keep this here for many years. Yes, there is rivalry. Yes, fans are so passionate for their own teams, but they respect each other as well. That is the main difference, because if Ajax plays Feyenoord, then away fans are not allowed anymore. So that tells you how terrible that situation is. And it makes it much nicer if both fans are there, and that is going to continue tomorrow, and I hope that is always the case for as long as football is played in England. Thank you for watching. Like and comment, subscribe.